Would you like a little bit more time to actually knit and crochet? So would I. So today I am going to share with you some of my biggest time-saving tips and tricks. And these are perfect because they work for both knit and crochet. So basically anything you do with yarn. Hey guys, it's Katie here. I am the Katie behind all of the patterns at Katie DeGraff Knits, the host of the What Katie Knits podcast and creator of all the other videos you see here on my channel. If you're not already, take a moment and subscribe. And because you're watching, you're one of my favorite people, don't forget to like, thumbs up this video, and as always, drop me a comment with what you're working on while we catch up. And today especially, if you have any other time-saving tips and tricks, drop them down below so we can all learn about them. Today's going to be a little bit different of an episode, but as always, everything I talk about, if there's any products, patterns, yarns, anything you need to know, it will be linked down below, as well as closed captions if you need them, and timestamp chapters so you can skip around just for what you want to see. Today we're talking all things time-saving. I'm going to preface this entire episode with do as I suggest, not as I do, because I think I should take my own advice a lot more than I do. It would save me even more time, but maybe actually sitting down here and getting all these things out in the open will kind of help me hold myself accountable just a little bit more. I'm gonna go in no particular order, and if there is anything that I cannot physically show you right here, I will include screenshots or B-roll so you can actually see what I'm talking about. I'm going to start with blocking. My biggest time-saving trick that I've actually stuck to. I originally did this, I want to say a year and a half ago, and it's stuck. And it's just one that seems super simple and like, duh, but it actually helps. I gathered together all of my blocking materials, the bowl that I prefer to block in, my towel I like to use, my blocking bars, T-pins, blocking wires, and they are right next to my blocking mats. I keep it all together. I put it all in my bowl. So gather all of your blocking materials together. Keep them together. Now I will caveat this. The only thing I do not keep in here is my bottle of wool wash. I had a little unfortunate accident once where the bottle came ever so slightly open and I lost about a half a bottle because it leaked in the bowl. But I could still use it because it was in the bowl. So now I keep that upright under my kitchen sink, which is where I soak everything anyway on my kitchen countertop. So that is upright, good, and will not spill again. But gather all of your blocking materials together, keep them together. Your blocking vessel, your soaking vessel of choice is probably going to be big enough to keep everything in. Aside from your blocking mats, of course, because these things tend to be massive. Those I keep propped up right next to my washer, and these are right in our utility sink, right next to it. So everything's right there. When I want to block something, I go get my bowl. It has everything in it. I set my mats out, I go and I soak my piece, and I come down and everything's there. So that for me has actually stuck and really does save me a lot of time. I don't have to search for anything. So my second blocking tip, and this one I've used numerous times. I don't think I'm gonna have to anymore because I've invested in more blocking bars. But I don't know about you, but I adore these Knitter's Pride blocking bars. Now, when they first came out, I think like maybe 6 or 7 years ago, they were kind of hard to get. And they are pretty pricey. They're around I think $32 US a set, but they are so worth it. They are such a time saver. They are straight. They are fantastic. Now, they do come in a mix of small and large, but I own 4 sets now. That was a big investment. I did have 3, and then earlier this, I want to say like a month and a half ago, I had to block John's grist and then 3 shawls, actually, including the one that I'm wearing right now, which is my Taka sheep shawl, which is brand new. You should go check it out on Ravelry or Etsy. Shameless little plug there. I was blocking 3 of these and John's grist. I ran out of blocking bars. I was super annoyed. I'm like, oh my gosh, 3 is not enough. Come on. So I'm going to show you my little time-saving tip and trick if you love blocking bars, but you run out mid-block. Now we all have boxes of T-pins. These delightful little pins that we've all stepped on at some point or stuck ourselves with, but are vital for blocking. We all have them. And that was the traditional way to block. That or using blocking wires, which you first have to thread through your piece in order to use them, which does take time. But if you're a shawl knitter or you need a rounded edge, that's your go-to. For anything that is straight, that you're using blocking bars for, you run out, what do I do? So here's my trick. You have your bar on your mat. I've run out. Take your bar, stick it where you want it to go in a straight line, take your T-pins, and go directly against the bar. You're going to insert however many you feel is necessary. On the large bars, I insert 4. On the small ones, I'll insert 3. So I have my pins along my bar. Now, I took my bar off and I have a perfectly straight line. And you can keep repeating as long as you need to, but that's a way if you run out of bars or if you only have one set, use them on corners or anywhere where they're vital, and then the rest of the space, stick your bar, line with T-pins, remove bar, continue on. There's your answer for a straight line. Something else too, kind of a little safety tip at this point, keep your blocking bars in a hard plastic container. Plastic, metal, I don't care, something that it cannot poke through. Because guess what? I have T-pins in this bag, and that is a rusty T-pin. These were all like a different off-brand, total side note, and Shiny Object Squirrel. So I keep them like separate. I really need to just throw them out. But as you can see, they're going to poke through. And guess who's getting stabbed with that? You don't want it to be you. Now I'm going to go into not only a time-saving tip and trick, but also a sanity saver. If you know you're going to hold yarns together, say you're going to hold fingering together, say you're going to hold a mohair with something or a suri with something, I don't care what. You're holding these yarns together, you know this. We cake them up before we use them, but wind them together. So you are pulling from one cake. You don't have multiple balls that you're juggling. I'm going to insert some B-roll here of what I'm talking about and how I do it. Just to give you a little example, I'm working up a Frost Lines cardigan right now. For my main color, I am holding a worsted with 2 strands of mohair. That's 3 strands for my main color. My accent colors, of which I have 2 of, are fingering held double. I would essentially have 7 strands of yarn, which equals 7 balls of yarn to juggle. No, thank you. Hence why I started winding them together. And this isn't actually the first time I did this. I plan on making a striped pink peppermint shawl by Tana Slavely. And one of my colors is a fingering held double. And I had the 2 cakes there, and I'm like, I wonder if I could wind these together. So I did. I have a traditional royal ball winder, and I can safely get two 400-yard skeins of fingering held together on it, or two worsted, two DK, two of just about any standard skein of yarn on my royal ball winder without modifying the ball winder at all. This is saving me sanity. Now to do this, I will cake up all of my yarn. Then I will take the yarns that I'm holding together, 2, 3, whatever. I will put them on the ground. Then I will use my hand to essentially be your tensioner. Hold them, wind away. That's it. Now you can, if you feel more comfortable, wind them back on your Swift together and then through the ball winder. I just prefer to put my cakes on the ground and evenly wind it, as you see in this B-roll. Then I am regaining just a little bit of my sanity. So instead of holding 7 yarns for my frost lines, I'm now only holding 3. You know you're going to hold yarns together. Just wind them together to begin with. And chances are any standard ball winder can hold the capacity of it. Now you're pulling from 1 ball or cake as opposed to many. Now, my other little time-saving tip and trick, which is done very similarly to this, and I kind of showed it a little bit in here. I prefer to work my socks 2 at a time, which means that I need my yarn split. Yeah, I can pull from the inside and outside, and I've done that before just fine. But it does need a little bit more ball management, and I don't want to do that most of the time. So immediately when you cake that yarn up, you know you're going to be splitting it, split it. How do I do this? As I showed in the video, I wind my cake. Then I put my cake on my scale, which has been zeroed out. That may seem silly, but make sure you zero your scale out before you put the cake on it. I've messed up several times not doing that. So I put my cake on my scale on the ground, and I hold my hand out just as my tensioner, just like I did before, and I wind until I get halfway. Snip. Guess what? You now have 2 cakes. And when you're ready to cast on, it's all ready to go, and you don't have to worry about it. So if you're going to take the time to cake it up, you know you're going to split it immediately. It'll save you some time and sanity. That way, when you want to go cast it on, guess what's waiting for you? You're already split yarn. The other time-saving tip and trick that has completely been a game changer for me. As soon as you wind up your yarn for a project, weigh it immediately and write it on the ball band. We don't always have the option to have our phone or computer or device and the time to go input all this in. But chances are you're going to keep the ball band. So as soon as you cake it up, weigh it and write it on the ball band. That way you at least have it somewhere. I've been in a pickle a few times when I've had to rip out parts of projects because as a pattern designer, I have to have that information. Do I want to knit an entire second one just because I didn't weigh my yarn? No, I don't. So do yourself a favor. You wind it for a project, write it on the ball band. And if you're using multiple skeins for each project, just keep them all together until you're done and you catalog it, write it down where you need it to. Then they can go away. But do yourself a favor and just immediately pull your scale out and do it. It takes literally a minute or less, probably 30 seconds, I would guess, to weigh it. And then you know. Say I want to make a second one of these, or I do want to keep detailed notes. There you go. Now we've been talking a lot about using our scale. Absolutely. Invest, and this is really not an investment because they are cheap. Get yourself a scale. Get yourself a scale that weighs in grams and ounces at least. It does not have to be the most expensive. This was about, I want to say $11 or $12 on Amazon. I didn't get the cheapest. I didn't get the most expensive. But what is important is that the actual weighing space of the scale is large enough to fit a cake of yarn. So make sure that it's wide enough. And I forgot to measure how wide this one is. So I'm going to do that right now for you. This one is 4 inches by 4 inches. I can fit any cake on it that I want. So just make sure when you're purchasing it that it will weigh in multiple options, grams, ounces, whatever you work in. And it has a surface that is large enough. Now, this one did not come with the cute little sheep graphic on it. My oldest daughter, Elizabeth, just used her Cricut and printed me out a sheep decal and, you know, dressed it up a little bit. Bouncing off the topic of notions pouches, something I started doing a couple of years ago. I'm not a monogamous knitter, and I think this really could work even if you're a monogamous knitter. I started collecting these little tiny pouches. I have a main notions pouch, which I keep in my kitchen at all times. It's on my kitchen countertop on my computer. But then for my project bags, I have little mini pouches. Now in each of these little pouches, I keep a ruler. I keep darning needles, some teeny tiny snips, some needle stoppers, as well as a locking stitch marker full of various stitch markers. Now these I can use for anything, any project. Another time-saving tip and trick that I have. These are just traditional clover locking stitch markers. They come in different sizes. So I've even seen some fancy ones where they're in like a shape of a flower or whatever. I love these things. Keep them handy. I keep one in every single notions pouch or attached to the zipper, not only for a stitch marker in a pinch, not only if you need to, say you have an end of yarn that's just bugging you and getting in your way, wind it up, snap it on or clip it on, and now it's out of your way. Or my favorite use for these is cable needles. I will hook, I'll use the small one for, smaller cables, and I have a larger one for larger cables, but hook it around your stitches, hold it to the front or back, whatever you need to do, and then you can easily transfer them back. So my favorite use for these, cable needle. But long story short about the small notions pouches, I feel like I went off on several tangents and now I'm coming back to them. I like to keep one in every active WIP project bag. That way I have my basics at my fingertips. And then I also have a main notions pouch in a central location that does not move. That never leaves the kitchen countertop. I take that back. Sometimes it will come down to the couch next to me, but rarely. I try to leave it up there. So even if you're a monogamous knitter, leave one in a central location and carry one in your project bag. But if you're not a monogamous knitter like me and you have 5,000 projects going on at once, it can be very handy to just grab the project bag and know you have your basics with you. And a lot of these things you can purchase in bulk on Amazon. Little tiny snips, it's about $5 or $6 for like, I don't know, 5 or 10 little pairs of them. Boom. Now you have a pair for all of your little project notions bags. You can buy a big pack of like the clover locking stitch markers. Divide it up. You can buy darning needles. Just stick them on a piece of leather or somewhere that they're not going to poke anywhere. There you go. So it doesn't have to be expensive to make a whole bunch of these either. And it can be kind of fun too, to buy these big packs of things and divide it all up. So that is definitely a time saver in my book. I hope that maybe you got a few tips and tricks out of this that you can use, that may save you some time and some sanity, because that's big in our books. We need all the sanity we can get. But don't forget to subscribe, like this video, and you'll have to tune in next time to see what Katie knits.